Alright, so this question says to perform the following steps in order to prove that the idea that the order does not matter when inserting a function value and performing the operation will result in the same answer. So, essentially this is meaning that there are many ways that you can solve the there are many ways you can solve each of these functions, and it does not matter which. So that's pretty much all this is saying. Just essentially it's saying in a very fancy way with a motive, answer these questions. So first one says that if f of x is equal to x squared minus 4, find f of negative 1. Well, we are given negative 1, so just fill in every x we see with negative 1. So negative 1 squared, I believe that's negative 1, yep. There's something here, though, that if it's a negative, it sometimes changes to a positive, so I can't ever remember what, though. So it's just negative 1, subtract 4, which is just negative 5. Nope. So f of negative 1 is negative 5. That was a terrible circle. There we go. Now, the next one says if g of x is equal to x minus 2, find g of negative 1. Same thing, negative 1 subtract 2 is negative 3. Because I implement the negative 1 into x, so negative 1 subtract 2 is negative 3. So, now this is saying find f of negative 1 times g of negative 1. This is essentially saying multiply negative 5 times negative 3. So negative times negative is positive, and 5 times 3 is 15. So negative 5 times negative 3 is essentially just 15. Alrighty. Now it's saying find f of x times g of x. Now this is a little longer. I'm going to use a text box here. It is very large, actually. But okay. Lucky for me, I can turn it down a tone. So, f of x is, we're not given the value of x anymore. So we need to take this equation. So we get x squared, subtract 4. I'm going to stick these in parentheses. And then g of x is actually just x subtract 2. Now we're going to factor them through. X squared times x is x cubed. Actually, it does work. Okay, so first, I'm using the method of FOIL to factor. First, outer, so now I get x squared times negative 2. So we get negative 2x squared. Inner, so then negative 4x. Negative 4 times x is negative 4x. So, and then last, so negative 4 times negative 2. Negative times negative is positive. So 4 times 2 is 8. So we get plus 8. So, this is what we get when we multiply f of x times g of x with no value of x given. continuing, says find the value of f times g of negative 1. So, pretty much, this is essentially saying, get this function, get f of x times g of x, so we get this. So I'm going to copy this and get another one. Now implement every x we see with a negative 1. So that's a negative 1. Okay, so, and then negative 1, negative 1. All right, so negative 1 cubed. Negative 1 cubed is still negative 1. So this one here is still negative 1. So, now here's something people do a little wrong, is that they multiply this before they do the squaring. And that's breaking the rules of PEMDAS. It's exponents before multiplication. So, negative 1 squared is just negative 1. Now we get negative 2 times negative 1. Negative times negative is positive, so we get positive 2 since negative 1 times negative 2 is positive 2. And now again, negative times negative is positive, so 4 times 1 is just 4. So we get let's see. Just making sure I'm not doing anything wrong here. Alright. Hold up. I think I did do something wrong. Negative 1. Okay. Alright. When this negative 1 over here was in parentheses, it actually automatically changes when you square it to a positive 1. So that would actually be positive 1 times negative 2. So this would actually be remain a negative 2. Alright. Now let me just check for anything else I might have done wrong. Okay, so I checked this cubing. That one remains as a negative 1. So, let's see, 9, 10, 11, 12, 11, 10, 9. So essentially here, we got a 9. Which is different. So there must have been something that we have done wrong. So I'm going to see if I can figure out what I've done wrong. However, it appears I have done things correctly, so it could be that I did this wrong. So I'm going to pause the video and see on my own time if I can figure it out. So it appears that I have not done anything wrong that I can easily notice. So, however, I have noticed that up here, I just barely noticed this, that when I did the squaring, when you implement it, you always have to put it in parentheses, which is what I did wrong. Because if you don't put it in parentheses, you're going to get back a wrong digit if you use any negatives whatsoever. So this was actually a positive 1. So a positive 1, so a positive 1 subtract 4 is actually negative 3. I'm going to change that to a 3 if I can. Goodness gracious, why does that look like Sonic the Hedgehog to me? Alright. So negative 3 times negative 3 is positive 9. So, this is not the correct answer. The correct answer is positive 9. So, for both answers, we do get the same answer. And you always should. This is method 1, is implementing the digits, the x values into the functions and then multiplying them together. Second one, you can actually just put both functions together, multiply it, and FOIL it through, then implement it into the equation that you're given, or the expression, whatever it is, and you should get the same value. That was a terrible circling as well. So, you should get the same value each time. If you don't, you've probably done something wrong, like I did. It's easy to forget about, at least with me, it's easy to forget about squaring. So always keep an eye on that. That's where I've seen a lot of people go wrong as well.